Welcome, everybody, to the Rye Town Council meeting of November 21st, 2017. Please rise, and in a departure, I'm going to ask Casey Watts, who is leaving us as the Westmore News reporter, to lead us in the pledge. Before we do the roll call, I would just like to welcome our Councilwoman-elect, Jill Axelrod, who's sitting at the table. Congratulations on your election. And Tom Nardi, congratulations on your re-election.
Thank you. It was a real tough campaign.
It was hotly contested.
You didn't have to say that. All right, please call the roll home.
Councilperson Lindsay Jackson.
Here.
Councilperson Thomas Nardi.
Here.
Councilperson Anthony, I was going to say Tony Baxter.
Here.
Councilperson William Villanova.
On his way,
way.
he says.
And Supervisor Gary Zuckerman.
Here. Our first item is a public hearing on the 2018 preliminary budget. May I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we'll wait one moment. Dave, you want to come up? Bill? Please mark Deputy Supervisor William Villanova as present.
I did already, just come up the steps.
I thought he was going to do an Al Pacino, like in Justice for All.
There you go.
Dave Burns, Town Controller. The board has in front of them the 2018 preliminary budget, which there's a public session tonight on the public hearing tonight on the preliminary budget. The adoption of the budget will be scheduled for the last meeting in December, so obviously we can still make changes to this budget before a proposed adopted is submitted for December 19th. Some quick highlights of the budget as it stands right now. The proposal is for a zero tax levy increase over 2017. The total tax levy for the town of Rye is $248,000. The appropriations in the preliminary budget are at $3,069,000. And the total revenues excluding real estate taxes are at $2,900,000. As part of this budget as it stands right now, there is an appropriated fund balance of $190,000 to balance the budget. Last year, from 2017, and even the previous year, we've appropriated fund balance. We haven't used it because there's been surpluses in 2016, and we project there will be a small surplus for 2017 as well. So that's what the public hearing's for. Any comments? And the board can make additional changes to this budget before we propose adopted submitted.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, and I'd like to know if there are any members of the public that wish to speak on the preliminary budget. Hearing none, we will continue. We will not close the public hearing. We will continue the public hearing at our next meeting in case individuals wish to speak on the budget. I'd like to announce at this time that we're going to, I'm going to ask for a motion for an executive session at the end of this meeting to discuss specific personnel matters. We have no presentations.
Do we have to adjourn the public hearing?
No, we're going to continue. We don't have to make a motion.
don't have to
No,
adjourn.
we're just not going to close it.
Okay.
Adoption of minutes. We have our regular meeting of October 17th. We have two, we actually had three, there are three on there. Okay. We have 3 special meetings for budget workshops on 10/26, 11/2, and 11/8 of 2017. If there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion and a second to accept all 4 sets of minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on matters that are not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item. We have several resolutions. The first is the stormwater management contract. Billy, I know that you are very interested in this one.
I am.
Um,
I'm waiting.
You're waiting? What are you waiting for?
I'm waiting for it to be read.
May I have a motion and a second on the resolution for the, to approve the stormwater management
So,
contract?
what's the change here, Gary, just so for
Where?
the, on this stormwater management contract? We have changes to this? Or is this is the contract?
This is the contract. It's in your package. This is I believe the
Right, but
contract,
the only change is that Rybrook is not part of it now, is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay.
No, okay, let me go back. Okay, let me go back. We've been living with this for so long.
I know.
We assume that everybody knows. Originally, it was proposed that the Village of Rybrook be the lead agency and enter into a contract with the County of Westchester. The village found certain terms not, they objected to certain terms in the proposed contract. They tried to negotiate with the county. That negotiation was not successful. And so the town of Rye stepped up, and the town of Rye is going to enter into a contract with the county. There were provisions in the contract that were applicable to the Village of Rybrook that are not applicable to the town of Rye, and so we don't have any problem with that contract. It will be paid for. This is for a study of the stormwater problem at Avon Circle and the Portchester Middle School. It's for a study only, will cost approximately $100,000, of which the county will fund 50%. And the Village of Rybrook, the Portchester School District, and the town of Rye will fund the remainder in differing proportions. And that's basically what is in front of us at the present time. There was one change from the earlier resolution in the resolve clause, which authorizes me to negotiate and enter into a mutually binding agreement. We inserted the words substantially similar to the one proposed by the county. So in case there needs to be any small changes, we can make them. That being said, Billy, do you want, let's have a motion and a second first.
So moved.
Second.
Bill, any comment?
No, but listen, this is a long time coming, and we've approved a resolution and an agreement before. We didn't get this far. Here we are now, so I guess it's going to be up to the town to drive the process, not the Village of Rybrook. And, you know, we missed an entire window in 2017 because of bureaucracy. And what we don't want to do is miss an entire window again in 2018. So whatever we can do to push this along as soon as the weather breaks in the springtime and to get the process started, I would appreciate that.
Thank you, Bill. Just one aside is that this project is also part of our CFA grant, so we may be able to get state money as well. And if we should be successful in that, then we are going to have to resolve the differing proportions between the county, the state, and the municipalities. But we don't have that grant yet, so we don't have to worry about it. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Jackson,
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter,
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is a resolution regarding the assessment data mailer. This was a recommendation of our assessment task force, where the town will pay up to $40,000 to SPG to do a data mailer, which will hopefully increase the accuracy of our data in the assessment department.
That whereas clause, excuse me, has a typo. It should be SDG. That one
Yeah.
whereas
It's-
clause.
Oh, the first whereas, yeah, it's SDG. We can change that, Hope, when you get a chance. Jeff, do you want to talk about this a little bit? Or not?
This is the project that is a precursor to reval. And postcards and mailers are designed and sent out to property owners to elicit information. Denise is here, can speak to a little bit more detail. But
Denise?
essentially, this kicks off that process.
Is this on? Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, the data mailer actually will accomplish quite a few things, hopefully. One is that we want residents to look at the photograph, because we have the new photographs from March of this year. So the first thing we'll direct them to is that your home? And hopefully draw them in to answer some of the other questions. The second thing is we want to get them used to going online to look for their data. So when the change of assessment notices are due to come out, if they haven't gotten theirs and they want to know what their change of assessment is, they'll know right where to go. The third thing is we would like to keep the online response site open all the time so that anybody could go in there at any point in time and request a change, contact us and say, hey, we don't have 5 bedrooms, we have 4. And that will be open at any point, and we will continue to spread the word that it's there. And every time we send out a letter of introduction, when there's a sale and we're changing exemptions, we'll ask people to go on the site, check their information, and contact us if there is anything different. And that's what we hope to accomplish with this data mailer. And by using SDG, they were the one of the 3 bidders that has the online access. So the other bidder, GAR Associates, would have had to have gone to SDG to acquire that link, that process. And that's why their bid ended up also being higher, because they would have to go to the third party or second party to get that, where SDG can provide that directly.
Yeah, and ultimately, this $40,000 will come out of the bond because the reval is considered a capital item, and this will be part of the reval, and that therefore this will not be in the operating budget, but will be part of the proceeds of our bond issue.
Any questions?
Questions?
Do we have any idea what SDG's response rate has been on average in other municipalities?
Well, the response rate from any company is less than 30%. Really, you're only going to get people who are going to contact you to say they have less than what we're indicating. So that is one of the downsides of a data mailer, but if it can get them in to look at the other items, maybe they'll let us know.
Yeah, but excuse me, Linz, even if those are the people who would respond, we still want an accurate assessment of the property. And if there are mistakes and people have fewer bedrooms or bathrooms than the assessment roll has, we want to know that.
Absolutely.
And everybody has a right to do that. Hopefully there will be other methods of picking up things such as swimming pools that are on the property and have not been accounted for.
Or
and-
additions,
And additions and things like that.
right.
So there will be several methodologies used to get a true picture of every property in the town of Rye.
Absolutely.
Lindsay, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you had mentioned keeping the website open, I guess, indefinitely?
Well, the SDG, Image Made Online, is one of our two portals for information. SDG replicates our RPS data, and then the Vision data is on a Vision website. And that information is always there. But the Request Changes button that will be created will remain there so that people can contact us at any point in time.
So residents, or I guess property owners, homeowners, residential property owners will have the ability to interface with the
Absolutely.
assessment department indefinitely
Right,
going
and there's an
forward.
email link there, and they can, go ahead and fill the form out, and it'll go right electronically to us.
And then you guys will get an automatic alert, I'm assuming, when something,
Yes.
okay.
Any other questions?
And is that an additional cost to have it there indefinitely, or,
No.
okay.
All right, anybody else?
No, I think this is a step in the right direction. Obviously, transparency and opening up a line of communication with the public, making sure that they have, our stakeholders have an opportunity to communicate with the assessment department is great.
And
Thank
the
you.
one other thing I wanted to add was, we had spoken about with the task force, the idea of holding workshops in the spring in advance of the assessments coming out to kind of educate the public as to what an assessment is. And I just want to make sure that that stays on the agenda as something that the task force is working on.
I think we
and
did
something
that
we can
last
do.
year, didn't we? We did that, yeah.
The task force presented 3 workshops.
Debbie, grab the mic. There you go.
All right, the task force, do I press it, Tom? The task force presented 3 workshops, one in each of the,
Good.
local.
And is that planned for this year too?
And off. So one in Rye Brook, one in Dorchester, and one in Pioneer.
And do we anticipate doing that again?
I think that the task force was certainly interested in that. I don't think it's on their radar right
Okay.
yet.
And
Right.
for those workshops, how much did it cost the town, and is it built into the budget for this year, or will there be additional funds required?
I think it cost, I don't want to give you a wrong number. We put one ad into the Westmore News, and other than that, we paid our videographer, and that was it.
Okay, so something we could kind of use.
Volunteer-driven.
Completely,
Okay.
completely.
Thank you.
And we have a video, we had it videotaped, so it's available on our YouTube channel.
All right.
Good.
We did have a motion in a second, correct?
We did.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Councilperson Jackson,
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter,
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes.
Thank
Denise,
you.
The next 2 are yours as well. Denise? Tax certs. Let's have a motion and a second, and then discussion. May I have a motion and a second?
Are
I'll
we doing
make
both
the
at the same
motion.
time, or are we doing
No,
one
no,
at a
one
time?
one at a time.
Which one is first?
ST.
ST Properties.
Properties.
That's for Doral Greens. Yep.
I'll make the motion on ST Properties.
Second.
Denise?
Question? Do you want summary, or?
Either you or Jeff?
This is a tax cert settlement for this particular property. We negotiated a withdrawal of years 12 through 17, but these years needed to be adjusted. And Denise can speak to the aggregate refunds if you're interested.
I don't have those calculated.
You don't have them?
Well, maybe we have this information. I've always been, I don't know, somewhat surprised when we're looking at, let's say, 70 Doral Greens Drive West, right? And what the value is of 70 Doral Greens Drive West versus 68 and 72 and 74. Are they all around the same? I mean, are we looking at this entire group of buildings there? And are they, because from what I know, is that they're all similar in age, and quality. They've all were built the same, and other than the furnishings inside, they're all kind of similar. So what gives one property a better standing than the others for a reduction in their value?
The question, I think, is whether the others have filed tax certs.
Or scars, because this is is the property address, Jeff, I've got ST Property at 9 Arrowwood, or is this the?
This is 70.
70 Doral Green.
I'll have to pull that up. It's probably a single-family townhouse or one of the single families there. So when they challenge their assessment, they would do it as any other person in a SCAR capacity would. In this case, it's a tax cert, probably because it was non-owner occupied or corporate owned. And they would provide comps of sales of similar properties in Doral, and that's how we would arrive at come to the conclusion about the value.
Bill,
Not
the-
but not the only reason we would come to the conclusion about the value, because this is litigation. So there's the calculus of whether do we settle, we look at the litigation costs, we look at the overall picture of that particular case. Did we get anything, in this process of trying to settle the case, working it up towards trial? What did we get? Well, in this particular case, we got a withdrawal of years 12 through 17. So there was a back and forth going on, and so there was an adjustment in these years based on our analysis, and here we are.
So then maybe I'll try to ask the question a different way. What is the value of this property compared to the adjacent properties? Are they all valued the same?
They should be based
you-
on market rate. I don't have that information right
So
now.
I
Bill,
guess,
I could get it for you if you'd like.
Let me try and interject something. What the assessed value is of adjacent properties, I think, is an interesting question, but it's not dispositive. Because the value, once you go to court, the value is not determined by the assessment of the surrounding properties. Am I correct, Jeffrey?
That is correct.
It is determined by the
Sales.
fair market value of that particular property. So an adjacent property may be incorrectly assessed either higher or lower, but that wouldn't have dispositive value on that particular property, which is in court.
If there were no recent comps in the area,
Right.
we'd have to look beyond that.
so what I'd like to know, if you want to get it back to me now, if not, I'll foil it in January.
Bill, you don't have to foil this kind of information. We're happy to
What
provide
I'd like
it.
to know is what the overall value is of those properties, let's just say, in that one run.
Okay, in
Okay,
that
so
year.
If we're looking there in 70, let's just say Doral Green Drive West, if the corrected assessment here for these years, and again, this is 2010, 2011, let's say it's 635. Let's say maybe now it's 685. Are all these other properties approximately 685?
Well, you gotta look at 2010 and 2011. You'd have to compare apples to apples down the line, down the street,
So then,
and keep
I'm-
in,
forget about then. I want to see what they're all now, if they're all kind of comparable now. Or is there an anomaly? Is there one property or two properties that may be incorrect? That's all I want to know.
or had a building permit and did some extensive
they did,
renovations. So
that's
there are other
correct.
things that could be factored
Exactly
in
right.
to variances in the values. But keep in mind also that we're settling 2010 and 2011. 2011 Vision came in, did a reval, so numbers were adjusted after that. So that's
Right.
kind of what happens with some of these cases as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I do have the fiscal impact or the tax refund estimate on this, Jeff, if you'd like it.
I think that they're good.
Okay.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Jackson,
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter,
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. The next one is the tax cert on 22 Orchard Street in Portchester. Are there any questions about this? May I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
I'll second.
Are there any questions about this?
Is this
It
a,
seems
this
pretty
is a multifamily?
Yeah, Jeff, I just want to make sure this is 20 Orchard Street?
22.
Because I go
22.
by section block and lot, and,
It's 22 Orchard.
because they own 22 and they own 20,
This is 22.
okay? 22 Orchard, hold on 1 second, I'm sorry.
This is a reduction in 2010.
Jeff, I don't have 22 Orchard for these guys. I have 20 Orchard. It's owned by 22 Orchard Street, so is 22 Orchard, but I only have a file on 20 Orchard.
Jeff, can
Is
you
that the
enlighten
property?
us?
I need, if it is the property,
It's owned by the same owner.
it's a three-family. But we have to be sure we're referencing the correct section, block, and lot and address,
You want it?
because,
You want the section block
Yep.
and lot? 136.71
yep,
dash 2-69.1.
that is 20 Orchard Street, just to clarify.
Well, this one says 22. Is that a typo? Should this be changed? Or do you want to withdraw this and wait for next month?
No, then it should be changed because the consent judgment says 22.
It's owned by 22 Orchard Street, let me
Well, then
see.
just go by the section block and lot.
If the section, block, and lot is 136.71-2-69.1, that is 20 Orchard Street, Real Estate Holdings.
And we're settling 2010, right?
We're settling 2010, and
You know something? We're withdrawing this. Who made the motion?
Councilperson
did.
Baxter.
You did? Tony,
I'll
will you
withdraw.
withdraw the motion?
I
Thank
will.
you. We'll put this on for next time.
I think the discrepancy there is that it's probably owned by 22, but we're talking about property 20. So better to be
I
safe
what-
than
I
sorry.
agree with you.
Yeah.
That's
And what-
probably the case. But if the consent judgment says 22, then we can't pass a
I'll
resolution on 20.
clarify it.
Let's just clarify it for next month, okay?
It hasn't been
Good.
signed, so.
Okay. This is the, next resolution is for the procurement policy. And we went over this in our work session on the budget. Debbie, do you want to just briefly elucidate the public as to what this is?
Yes, all purchasing done by the town of Rye is governed by our procurement policy. It's often called a purchasing policy. The last time our purchasing policy was adopted, it was 2008. In practice, we had noticed that it was outdated, and this was also pointed out to us by our auditors, encouraging us to adopt a new, an updated purchasing policy. So we embarked on that process. We also had a number of policy initiatives taken on by the council over the last couple of years, one of them being a commitment to sustainability, and another being a commitment to, when using federal funds, to observe Section 3 practices, which is to give weight to purchasing from historically disadvantaged populations,
Including women.
including women and minorities, and the poor. So there were a number of important initiatives that the council had taken on, and we found that the procurement policy was an excellent way to put those values into practice, and so that's what we have done. And specifically, what we've done is, in addition to doing a survey of best practices across the country, we identified that instead of just awarding a purchasing decision or purchasing award based on lowest responsible bidder, we have added the definition of best value, which enables staff to take into account the sustainability of a product according to its labeling. There's a number of commonly used in the industry standards for identifying environmentally friendly products or consistent products. The ability to consider whether the provider or the product is produced locally within the town of Rye, for example, or within Westchester County. So those kinds of decisions are now possible for staff to consider when making a decision about what would be the best value for the town. So that is what's featured. In addition to that, the thresholds for requirement for example, public works bidding and our closed bids, those have all been brought to New York State standards.
Yeah, thank you. Motion and a second, please.
Make the motion.
Second?
I have a concern just with the, obviously I expressed a concern when we discussed this at our
Do we have a
workshop.
second? We don't have a second. Do we have a second?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion.
So I have a concern, and really only on the thresholds. I understand the value of modifying the procurement policy to better help the town be positioned for future grants when it comes to sustainability and helping with not lowest but most responsible and what's best for the town. And whether it's a minority-owned business, a woman, or a local provider, I understand all of those and I support all of that. But I do believe, and I'm only one person, but I do believe that the threshold should be left alone. And if we're going to go for a purchase of any, whether it's a professional service or whether it's a specific piece of equipment, if we're going to go down that route, I think the thresholds are going to be met anyway, but it will eliminate the opportunity of any board. And I'm not concerned about this board, but maybe the next board and maybe two boards down the line not being as conservative as we are now. And just because the standard or the thresholds are higher across New York State, we're talking about municipalities that have budgets of $35, $40, $100 million compared to the town of Rye budget that is just around $3 million, a little bit more. So having lower thresholds for the town of Rye, for me, appears to be correct. So I would respectfully ask that this motion or this item be tabled for a month. I want to take a look at it a little bit more, and so I can support it. But again, I'm only just one vote.
What's the feeling of the other members of the board?
Well, I guess I have a couple of questions. Debbie, what was the previous thresholds? I know we're at 20 and 35 for public work contracts.
Give me a second.
Yep. I'm just trying to, because we're talking about 2008, so we also, I mean, if we're talking about keeping it the same, I think we should build in room for the rate of inflation.
While she's looking that up, if I could just make a suggestion, I think Billy raised a good point, and this is a pretty lengthy document, and I wouldn't see the harm in taking another month and getting some of those questions like Lindsay just asked, maybe getting some historical data in terms of what has been done in the past and what those thresholds were, and just feeling more confident that this is the way to go. I'm pretty sure it is. But I, for one, would feel more comfortable diving into it a little bit more and bringing it back next month.
I agree, and I know that we've discussed this item ad nauseum, but I still think that we're talking about a major decision as far as the board is concerned, and our ability to have money spent without resolutions and without bids. So I think that because it's such an important policy moving forward, that we should take a look at it?
I don't have a problem if the board feels it needs to study this issue a bit more, but this doesn't change the fact that there is competitive bidding. It
Yeah.
just changes the level at of the different requirements. In other words, when can you get a verbal bid? When do you need 3 written bids? And when do you need to go out publicly for an entire bid process? Because costs have been inflated since 2008. The rest of the state has moved those limits up. I believe and there are 2 issues, by the way. One is also just the theory of and the difference between a public works process and a purchase. In other words, if you're going to go out and buy a lawnmower or something even more expensive, that's different than if you're going to go out for a bid on Crawford Park.
Yes, and I
And-
think, but
and-
also in there is the professional services as well.
Well, professional services is basically, you don't need bids for professional services. But although you can go out and do it, and that's obviously the best practice. But there are, I think what Bill is talking about is trying to find the matrix. Debbie, did you find
Yeah,
the old ones?
You're
I
seeing
did.
Just on
I
page
did.
16 to 17. I think it was 10 and 25.
The 2008 purchasing policy has anything up to $999, requisitions for the purchase of like materials, supplies, equipment, or goods under $10,000. Up to $999, requisition purchase at the discretion of the department head of each department, $1,000 to $3,999.99, minimum of 2 vendor-submitted written, email, or facsimile price quotes, $4,000 to $9,999.99, minimum of 3 vendor-submitted written, email, or facsimile price quotes, and $10,000 and over sealed bids in conformance with General Municipal Law, Section 103. And then for the purchase of public works, under $20,000, from 0 to $4,999.99, requisition to purchase at the discretion of the department head, and from $5,000 to $19,999, a minimum of 3 vendor price requests with written email or facsimile price quotes with award recommendations, and being made by the department head and with the approval of the controller, and then $20,000 and over, sealed bids in conformance with General Municipal Law, Section 103.
I think part of the problem is when you're dealing an amount like $20,000 in today's pricing, it's inefficient to go into the total sealed bid process. You still would need under the proposed proposal you'd still need a minimum of 3 written quotes. It's only when you get into the higher $35,000 that you need to go out for sealed bids, which in many cases you're going to have to do with major construction projects anyway. But to go through that process for a $20,000 item, I think causes a lot of inefficiency, especially if you need to get that item fairly quickly. Hope, how long does it take us generally to go out for sealed bids with notice and everything else? It's like a month, right?
At least a
At least,
minimum.
at least a month. And to force that when you're dealing in an amount like $20,000, you know, when you're gonna legitimately get 3 written quotes, and it doesn't matter which board it is, Bill, that does that, this board or a future board, you have to assume that people are gonna act responsibly. So, I
So
mean,
I-
my
I-
feeling, if you want to put it off for another month, then we'll do it.
Yeah,
You
I
can
would-
look at it.
I would
It's not a
appreciate that.
problem.
I will say this. I don't worry about this board at all, okay? And
Are you worried about Jill's board?
I'm worried, maybe, we don't know. Jill's an unproven entity, right? We'll see
She'll
what
be
happens,
fine.
right?
She'll be fine.
But more importantly, when I came on the board, we had, and Hope can, explain, agree or disagree with me. We had professional contracts that were given out for landscapers, okay? And that's the reason why our thresholds were low, and we put in a purchasing policy that was very conservative and very restrictive, because we don't know what the future holds, we don't know what the future boards are going to do. So maybe that's just a little bit of me being, very conservative about it, or, maybe it's a paradigm that I'm having a difficult time changing. That's just how I feel. I'm one vote on the board, and, but if you afford me
Billy-
the opportunity a month to,
No, it's
Yeah.
not a problem. We're just discussing it in public, and for the benefit of the public, we discussed this in workshop for about an hour also.
correct, yeah,
So this is not just coming up now.
no. And this is a conversation that we had
Yeah.
during our.
No,
our
we'll put it
workshop
off,
as well.
we could put it off for another month.
And
It's, it's not a critical element. Debbie's just gonna have to live with the old process for another month.
I just want to make sure and sort of reiterate, because I fall somewhere in the middle between what Billy's saying and what the procurement policy is, because I do think that there should be, we shouldn't necessarily hold ourselves to state standards and what other municipalities are doing, because our budget is a lot different. Our municipality is set up a lot differently.
What I'm gonna suggest that we do, Debbie, look over the last 2 years. First, certainly the last year. If you don't have enough, look over the last 2 years at the contracts that we've issued and which ones you've gotten orally, which ones you've had 3 written bids for, which ones have gone out for public bidding, and how that would change the way it went out for the last year or two and the way it would go out. And then we'll have some actual
Right.
Well,
empirical
and
So,
just,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
sorry, just to finish my thought, while I do think that there needs to be some difference, I am concerned that the last one was done in 2008, and we obviously have to keep up with the rate of inflation and the changes that are going on as far as prices. And I do know we discussed staff time that it takes to go through the bid, so it may be penny wise, pound foolish. We may be guarding our money more, but we may be spending more staff hours monitoring it. So I guess my desire would be to definitely have this done and completed by December, so we can start 2018 with the new procurement policy, and definitely take a look at it, but to make sure that we are being good guardians of the taxpayers' money, both when it comes to
it's not a
staff
problem.
time and,
I don't think that that's a problem, because this draft is 24 pages long, and what we're really talking about is a couple of items dealing with the threshold. There's a lot more in the procurement policy than just these
That's
thresholds.
correct.
And I'm sure that we don't have a problem with all the rest of it.
No, and as I mentioned, I have no problem with anything else that's there, because I think it's all worthy, I think it's all for the benefit of the future of the town.
All right.
No question about it.
but I think we can come up with a threshold that basically prevents the need to go to bid continuously like we have been doing.
Right,
But makes it
and when we-
sort of middle of the road.
And when we pull together this historical data, recent historical data, we have to obviously eliminate any bids that are $35,000 or more, because they wouldn't apply to this, and they wouldn't apply to the older policy.
All right.
So it's really just a finite group of values that range from $20,000 or $10,000 to $25,000.
All right. So that motion is withdrawn?
Can
whoever made it.
I made it, I withdraw.
Thank
Okay.
you, Tom, I appreciate it.
Okay, and that'll be put on the agenda for our next meeting. Our next item is the the resolution for to declare the Crawford Mansion contents as surplus. And we all know what this one is about, right?
Absolutely.
For members of the public, we are going to be renovating Crawford Mansion, hopefully starting in February. There are a lot of items in the mansion that are not necessary for town operations any longer. And in order for us to dispose of them in any way, we need to first declare them as surplus, and that's the purpose of this motion. So may I have a motion and a second?
So moved?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
sorry,
Is there any
just-
discussion?
Just on the question, just on the discussion. Did we contact the donor of this piano?
Yes. I don't think this should be on the list, I just realized. I did speak to Mrs. Barone, and she said she's going to try to find someone that could keep the piano.
Okay,
Right, so
So
I
that should
told her
come
what
off
our
the list.
plans were.
very good. So we're gonna remove that from.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so as
Thumbs up.
amended?
As amended. Yeah, let me just, in case anybody's, we have a baby grand piano there. It's not in really good condition. And in order for us to store that piano and bring it back when the renovation is complete, it would cost probably more money than the piano is actually worth. So our plan is, after the renovation, to probably go out and purchase a good used piano. And one of the places, the Purchase Music School sells used pianos every year that their music students have used. So that is the general plan.
She fully understood about if we had to put it in a storage place, it would be very expensive,
Right.
so.
Because it would have to be stored in in an area not subject to heat and cold.
Right.
Okay, as amended, if there are no further comments, Hope, please call the roll.
Councilperson Jackson,
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter,
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. The next resolution is, in fact, I'm going to take H out of, let's do H first. I'd like to take that out of order. This is a resolution for trash and recycling services. Debbie, why don't you just, we went through this at the Rye-Town Park Commission as well. Just
The-
give an
the-
overview.
For the last many years, the town's refuse was picked up by the village of Portchester in exchange for a small fee. We were notified this fall that the village was no longer in a position to pick up the garbage. This is really exclusively at Crawford Park, that they could no longer do so. And as a result, I put the contract out to bid on the New York State mini bid contract through the Office of Government Services. With the, of the three approved suppliers, 2 participated, and the lowest responsible bidder is Winter Brothers. And so I've awarded the contract to Winter Brothers. The bid sets up a length of service where we are able to cancel that contract after 6 months if we want to. We also have 3 renewals, annual renewals.
Sounds great.
Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson Jackson,
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter,
Yes.
and Councilperson Villanova,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. The next several resolutions are related to Crawford Park. The first is resolution for water and sprinkler services. As many of you may be aware of, as part of our renovation of Crawford Park, we are putting in new sprinkler services and water lines. And later, we will be addressing the electrical service outside. So this was a bid. Actually, our architect, Gary Gianfrancesco, had put this out to bid through the town and has evaluated the bids and has determined and recommends to us that Jokin Development Corporation be granted the water and sprinkler services contract. So may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
This price on the bid, is this for the initial installation of the equipment? And is there a maintenance fee going forward?
This is for the service that's bringing the water to the house.
Okay, and then do they have a maintenance fee?
No.
To come out and maintain the sprinklers?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're gonna need a maintenance, once the sprinklers, yeah, we're gonna need a maintenance contract with somebody, whether we put it out to bid or if they don't have it for like the first year or anything, for maintenance. But we're gonna definitely need a maintenance contract with somebody.
I don't know that this particular company does maintenance. Probably we need a maintenance.
And it
Firm.
could be the landscaper. I mean,
It could be.
It could be the person
Yeah.
that does the landscaping.
Yeah.
It could be that.
Well, not necessarily.
It could be. That's
It
what
could,
I'm saying.
it could be, yeah.
Right.
Because this is gonna be internal, and more than likely, it's gonna be a dry system. So you're gonna have to have that checked once a year.
Do we have any,
This is the company that's going to dig trenches
digging the
all the
and-
way
and-
up the lawn and lay
Oh, they're
pipe,
just doing the service
bring the
pipe.
water into the house and leave it there.
Oh, this is just a service company?
Correct.
Okay, so it's, okay.
No, well, they're doing the work to bring the water into the
They're
house.
doing it, bring the work there in, but they're not doing the actual install inside
That's
the
correct.
building.
We haven't
Okay, so
gotten to
then
that.
No.
No.
then
or
that's
the
different.
actual sprinkler
Because when we
systems?
go to,
Correct.
when we do the actual sprinkler system,
That's
it
going to
might
be the GC that's a whole nother bid.
when we go to contract with that, we might want to specify that we want them to put a year's maintenance, a year or two maintenance into the contract.
Great idea.
Okay, this is just the water service coming in, okay?
Right.
So that's different. There's no maintenance with that. It's when it's
Right.
into the building, that's when you're going to need the maintenance. Okay.
And I see that they checked references, so.
Yeah, and the low bid, this was a little under $115,000. And the second bidder was a little over $125,000. And I think everybody's heard of these bidders, Jokin Development,
Yep.
NELQ, major companies. Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Jackson,
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter,
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. And let's jump to the next one, since we're dealing with this. For electrical services, which I had just mentioned previously. This is to take all of the electrical service that's outside in the park from the street and is now running overhead on wires to put it underground and run it to the house. And this includes digging the trenches, and also there are going to be other lines put in there. The cable, the telephone, everything else is going to go in those trenches. And this is to put in the electrical, and the low bidder was Alliance Electrical Contracting.
Now,
And they're taking down, also taking down all of the poles that are
No,
there.
that's not part of this contract.
Thought that was originally part of it. We're having another contract to take the poles down.
Aren't the
Okay.
the poles are privately owned?
Yes.
They are.
Yeah.
We're going to leave up one pole for the security cameras.
Way to go.
So,
but it's,
And it was actually
With a
less,
big PTZ right on top, baby.
it was actually less expensive to go from Ridge Street than from going from Betsy Brown Road, believe it or not.
That's amazing.
It was crazy, because they had to bring the three-phase in, it was crazy. So it's actually less expensive, more economical, let's put it that way, to go from
Oh,
Ridge
yeah.
Street all the way up.
that's surprising.
Yeah.
And then this bid is, the low bid was $263,000, a little under 264. And there
Bless you,
were
bless you.
6 bids received.
God bless you.
The highest bid was double, 500, almost 519,000. So this actually was a very good bid.
I'm a little concerned because it says that there are no references available. If you look in the bid analysis, the bottom of the first page on the spreadsheet, it says bid bonds, references, no.
This is for,
For Alliance.
For Alliance. And I'm just wondering why that is.
Actually, I have two companies that had
No references.
no references.
Well, that's shame.
But
I can't answer this question. I think we have to call on Gary Gianfrancesco.
Well, let me suggest that if that's the only problem, let's go forward. And obviously, I'm not going to sign a contract until we're satisfied that that's answered
Perfect.
correctly.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I certainly can't imagine that they would hire any firm without references. That doesn't, I
That's
mean,
not
the
that's not
standard
their
operating
modus.
procedure for this, for Arconics is they analyze the bids, they go back to people,
Yeah, and I have confidence in Arconics because they've done fantastic so far, but I just saw, it kind of caught my eye and I was a
I
little.
don't blame you.
It was a good catch, Lindsay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, did we have a motion? We
Not
didn't.
yet.
Motion and a second, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Councilperson Jackson?
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi?
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter?
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova?
Yes.
And Supervisor Zuckerman?
Yes. And the next one is the resolution regarding the Crawford Park Tree Inventory Grant. As many of you have been made aware, and as has actually been printed in the local newspaper, I'll give you a plug, Casey. The Westmore News, the town of Rye received a grant for the Crawford Park Tree Inventory. It's more than an inventory. For almost $13,000. And this resolution authorizes me to receive the grant, always good to receive money, and to enter into a contract with the Bartlett Tree Expert Company to effectuate the tree inventory, and also, most importantly, the management plan. So, motion and a second.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Do we have a deadline as far as this grant as to when the work has to be completed by, or?
I don't think we have a deadline, but it's going to be done right away.
Okay, good. That's fine.
No further questions? Call the roll, please.
Councilperson Jackson?
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi?
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter?
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova?
Yes.
And Supervisor Zuckerman?
Yes. Okay. Did I skip any of the resolutions? I know I jumped around a little bit.
You hit them all.
I think I got them all. Yep. Right? Good. Reports. Denise, do you have a report, an assessor report?
Actually, I have nothing to report, but I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Our tax receiver report? Thank you, sir. I thought you might have something towards the end of the year to tell us about paying our taxes. Next month, okay. Hope the town clerk's report has been submitted. Do you have anything else to add?
I'd just like to wish everyone a very blessed Thanksgiving, and I'd also like to thank the public for allowing me to serve for another 4 years.
Hope I forgot, I hold it. I talked about the council people. I apologize. No. That's wrong of me.
Also
That's
Judge
wrong of me.
Colangelo.
And I'm just going to say, Judge Colangelo was reelected and Hope was reelected for the 38th time.
Despite the vicious
Almost.
attack ads they had out against her.
Hope,
Well,
I apologize
no need to
sincerely.
apologize.
No. Unforgivable.
I'm grateful.
Especially we've been friends for so long.
Right.
The superintendent of highways, I guess has his usual report. And by the way, just as an aside, since we're talking about the election, the residents, the voters of the town of Rye have voted to eliminate the position of superintendent of highways, and that will be effective at the end of the term of John G. Crescenzo, our current superintendent of highways, which is at the end of 2019, correct? Right, correct.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any comments from our council?
Lindsay? Any comments?
I guess just to wish everyone a lovely holiday season, which is upon us, scary enough. So,
Thank you, Tommy?
Yeah, everybody have a good Thanksgiving. I hope you have a lot of fun with your friends and family, and we'll see you in December.
So this executive session, we don't plan to go
Wait,
back.
no. No, we're not. Do you have anything?
I just wanted to say quickly, we had a meeting of the Sustainability Committee last week. Really good conversation, and a lot of things are in the works. And perhaps at next month's or the following month's meeting, I'd like to give an update and maybe have members of
Sure.
the committee come and we can kind of
Absolutely.
illustrate what we've been doing. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you. Billy, Ann, did you want to say something?
I do, sir.
Okay,
Is that okay?
sure.
Ann Capisi, 22 Ridge Boulevard in Portchester. I'm also the court clerk in the town of Rye. I started my employment with the town of Rye in October 1987. So I've been 30 years the clerk. I did receive a certificate from the New York State Association of Magistrate Court Clerks for my 30 years, recognition of 30 years of service. And I would like to see if you would put this and make it part of your meeting. I think it's important. But I also would like to speak about the judges in our court. I don't know, whether you realize what great people we have in our court. We have two judges. One is 33 years on the bench, 34, and the other one is coming up for his 19th year. These men have such integrity, and they treat people with such compassion and fairness, no matter what the problem is. And I don't know whether people realize in the town of Rye what a great court we have. It's coming up for our second year in this building. We share space with the village of Portchester. Most of our criminal cases come in from the village of Rybrook, so our Rybrook police are amazing people, but we also have cases from Westchester County and also from the New York State Police. The space that we have here has really worked out well. The clerks in the Portchester Court are very generous. They share. And And so I thank you for that. It's really been a seamless kind of transition to go from 10 Pearl Street after a zillion years to come here. I would just like to say that some of these chairs here and those chairs that you're sitting on all came through grants from the town of Rye. They're JCAP grants, and we brought them with us and the metal detector is also a grant from the town of Rye. So it's a very good mix that we have. Also, I'd just like to point out the flag on the wall, which flew over the Capitol, which came from 10 Pearl Street from like 1980 something, which is, it's really amazing. I look at it every day when I'm in the courtroom, and it makes me feel really good. But so thank you for listening. I just want to say that I just really was speaking in behalf of the judges. I don't think people realize how good they are, how they're in high esteem in the county. It's not every court that has a judge that's been on the bench that long. A lot of judges, for whatever reason, clerks go through a lot of judges, and we've had the privilege of having these judges for a long time. I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ann. And by the way, I think we all do appreciate our judges. We all know them, and we know how terrific they are. Thank you.
And congratulations on your
Thank you.
30 years as well.
Thank you, Ann. May I have a motion?
I just want to make a couple
Sure,
of quick
go ahead.
comments. First, we went through this big initiative to get us onto iCompass and do all this stuff. And Tony Baxter every month is twitching over here that we're killing all these trees. The sustainability effort that we're doing, we're going through it in our procurement policy. Either we make the change or we don't make the change. But you can't continue to print out binders like this and kill a baby tree every meeting, every 2 meetings for the Rye Town Park, for this meeting here, and then say, well, we're green, because we're not. So I think that's the effort that we need to.
We're greener than we've ever been.
I'm looking here at
I
four
I know.
Just make
iPads.
one binder.
2 out of 3.
Just one, make one
ain't bad.
binder.
But I'm just thinking we need to do that.
That's a
right?
sapling, that's not a
That's
tree.
a sapling.
All right,
So let's
enough.
let's make one. So that's one thing.
Okay.
I want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. I also want to do a huge shout out, and I shot a very important email to the supervisor and to Debbie and to Sarah regarding the Rye Town Titans. So for many years, Westchester was part of the Rye Town Titans hockey, and they withdrew several years ago because of, I guess, lack of players. And this year, the Rye Town Titans hockey is back to being a true reflection of the town of Rye. Rye-Neck, Rybrook schools, Westchester, and Harrison. And I'm looking forward to seeing them thrive and to have these student athletes on the ice. And I'm also looking to see if because really there's no other municipality, no school district that has the word Rye Town associated with it other than the town of Rye. And so I want to get a nice big jersey and get that on the wall over at 222. I think that would be great, and to show off some pride. So that's that.
Could I just
Go
say
Rye
one more
Town
thing?
Titans. Are you going to talk about the Rye Town Titans,
No,
Ann?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
One thing I
Motion
would
to
like to
adjourn?
say
No, no, no.
is just, I would like to thank you for your service all these years for the town of Rye.
Thank
But
you.
I just found out that Charles Politor just passed away. He's reconciled my bank statements for the judges and the bail account for the last 15, 16 years, to the penny. I mean, he was amazing. And unfortunately, I just heard tonight, so I think there are services, Nick said, on Thursday at Resurrection, but on Friday. But I want to thank him for, though he can't hear me, for really maintaining the integrity of the checkbooks for the judges and the bail account all these years. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Ann. And I personally would like to wish everybody a very, very happy and thankful Thanksgiving. We will meet again prior to our next holidays, so I will just wish you a happy Thanksgiving tonight. And I need a motion for an executive session to discuss specific personnel matters.
So moved.
Second.
All in
And we're-
favor?
We're not coming back.
And we're, yes, and we
We're
will
not
not come back into public session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed. Thank you.